Hey there, how's it going? Hans Schaff here, and I want to talk about this tiny house movement. Is it just a trend? Is it a fad? I was reading the Huntsville Times here in Alabama just the other day, caught my attention, and it talked about how multifamily building permits have increased and are higher than they have ever been since 1990. Now, if that's not a stat worth really thinking about, I don't know what is. Because now we're in the South, right? This is not an area where you typically have huge growth, huge real estate prices. I mean, the average median home is probably $250,000, $300,000, something like that. There's smaller houses, but then you can get bigger houses for a lot less, right? So in this area, to have that many new apartment permits being pulled, it's an indicator that there's a lot of demand for apartments, for renters, essentially, right? So what does that mean? Well, to me, that speaks volumes. It goes to show that, although the economy, maybe the stock market's at all-time highs and real estate's going back up, and everyone forgets the 2007 and all the crashes and all that kind of stuff, right? We all seem to have short-term memories. That people are out there, thinking about not going so big, not getting into a whole bunch of debt like they used to before. Home ownership is actually going down while renters are actually going up, and obviously that statistic of the demand for apartments just goes to show. And I think it's because it's finally starting to hit home with people. It's not just a fad. People are actually looking for alternative ways of being able to get out from debt. And of course, what's the biggest debt of all is probably your mortgage, right? School debt is pretty big, but usually people have even bigger house payments and car payments, things like that. But the house payment, that's something you've got for 30 years, right? Maybe 15 years if you get if you're paying double or paying quite a bit more on your mortgage than you would on a 30-year AM. So, that's a debt you're going to have for a long time, and people don't want to be stuck with a house that they may or may not be able to sell. And basically be a slave to for the rest of their life, and have to continue working for somebody else and having a job that they may or may not like because they got to continue to pay the bills to basically house all their stuff and their lifestyle. So people are starting to look at other ways. They're starting to, whether they're losing their houses because they can't sell them, or they're just deciding to sell their house and choose something different. They don't want to be stuck in that same rut. So what are your alternatives? If you're not going to buy a house, well, you can rent a house, rent an apartment, and that gives you the freedom of being able to kind of live wherever you want. But you're still, subject to a landlord. You still got, lease payment that you got to make every single month. So, it's good in the fact that you don't have a 30-year commitment, but you still have a 12-month commitment. And then at the end of 12 months, at the end of your lease, you're kind of subject to whatever the landlord wants to do. They could decide they're going to move into the house, which is what happened to my brother living in San Diego. He just has 2 kids and just kind of got settled. And, he was renting and didn't think a whole lot of it at the time, but then realized that, his lease went month to month, and sure enough, the landlord said, actually, it's quite a nice place I've got here that I'm renting to you. I think I'm going to move back into it. So they had to rearrange their entire life, not because of something that they wanted to do. It wasn't their decision. They kind of had to because that's what the landlord had decided to do. So, and that's fine. And if you're okay with that, making monthly payments each month, that works for some people. But then another option as well is to still have your own house that's yours, but you don't have to make payments on it, and it's buying it outright. Now, not a lot of people have $250,000, $300,000 or more, depending on where you live in the country. Again, I live in Alabama. Median home price is quite a bit less than like in California, where you're going to be spending $500, $600, $700 to buy your house outright, unless you get it even at a foreclosure, or you get it short sale, something like that. Maybe you can get one for $400,000. What a deal, right? How many people have $400,000 laying around in their bank account to buy a house? And the other drawback of that, even if you were to buy a house for $400,000, what if your neighborhood goes down in value? What if the job market in your local area, what if it's, you've got some big industry there, and all of a sudden that industry has a downturn and something happens, terrorist attack, God forbid, something happens and the economy is affected, and now people are losing their jobs, and now that real estate market hits bottom, and all of a sudden you can't get out of that house. Yeah, you own it outright, you don't have to make payments on it, but you've got to, duck as you're walking past the windows in case a stray bullet, happens to go through your window. That's not fun either. So what's a better alternative, or perhaps another alternative for some people? Tiny house. Again, you can buy your house outright. You can spend maybe $30,000, $40,000 if you're going to build it yourself. Maybe $60,000 more realistically for if you're going to buy a nice tiny house that you can that would be comparable to the living standards that most people are accustomed to. And you've got the mobility, location. Now you can, if you don't like your neighbors or they don't like you, you can pick up and move. Literally the next day, you can just get your truck, and or you can hire out the service if you don't have a truck and just move it to another place, find another location for it. You can you can go on vacation and take your house with you. If you've got a business or a job that's very demanding and you've got to have certain paperwork with you or files or your computer or your office, you can just bring that with you like I'm going to be doing. You can just drive around the country. You've got everything that you need, including your satellite TV, including your hot tub, including your fireplace, including all the luxuries and amenities that you want to have without having to sacrifice and having to live in a hotel or having to go here and go there and look for a printer and have to, if you have special dietary needs as well, think about that. If you could just bring your food with you wherever you go. If you've got your own blender, your own oven, your own kitchen, your own special appliances that you like to use, food processors, special water purifiers, all that stuff in a tiny house can be totally customized, and you can bring it with you wherever you go. So if you're someone who's got food allergies, boom, perfect solution. You can be having that everywhere you go and not have to worry about it. You can just have the food that you need on hand, make it at home, and as you're traveling during the day, boom, you've just got it with you. You can take it with you and not have to go to the expense of ordering special food out, or it just makes your life that much easier to be able to not have to worry about stuff like that. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but as you can see, I'm kind of partial to the tiny house. It's just solves so many problems. It's just a solution to so many issues today that people maybe aren't even willing to address. They just, they're kind of going about the status quo and just kind of going from day to day, just thinking, well, this is just what we're supposed to do. This is how we're raised. This is the way that society is. But people are waking up to the fact that, no, you can actually design your life and live in a way that suits more how you want. You don't have to just have the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and the 2.2 kids and the job, that you get out of college supposedly, and then, all these other things that we've grown up learning that were supposed to be the way things are. How many of those actually turned out true for anybody? It's just, I could go across the board in all different areas that I've learned that, things aren't exactly as you were led to believe in the movies growing up, or even, the school system that you were taught. Things are a little bit different today than we were brought up. So with that food for thought, just think about your life and look at it and think, what? How would I like to live? What things would I like in my life? And more often than not, if you're talking about freedom, if you're talking about self-expression and being able to kind of live on your own terms, I think you'll end up more often than not coming to this tiny house concept, and at least if nothing else, checking it out, taking a really deep look at it, watching some of the shows, and seeing people who live this lifestyle, what they really are capable of now, and how much happier they are because they can live less oppressed, more free. So go tinybefree.com. That's the website. Check it out if you want more information. And also, I encourage you to subscribe below. Just click the button if you're on YouTube, or you can go to my channel. There'll be a link down there below as well on how you can subscribe to hear the latest on my views and thoughts and what's going on in my experience with tiny house living and entrepreneurship and freedom in general. So hope you enjoyed this quick little message. Just thought it was pretty fascinating looking at that article in Huntsville Times yesterday and just seeing that, tiny house living, it's not just a fad, it is a trend, and it's something that people are catching on to and waking up to because it's such a great solution for so many people. Not everybody, but I encourage you to look into it because it may be something that will work for you and your family. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Appreciate you watching.